Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Low Carb in the Leaves with me, a rather croaky of voice, Dr. Mary Barson. So still got laryngitis, still at home today, which is a bit disappointing. Please forgive me any coughing fits as they come along. So I threw a really big children's party on the weekend, and being a medical doctor interested in health and weight loss and wellness, I didn't want it to be a total sugar fest, but also needed to negotiate with my beautiful daughter and also negotiate with social norms and find somewhere in the middle where we all felt relatively comfortable. And I feel that I did that fairly successfully. And one part of how I navigated this party was to use artificial sweeteners. I bought ice cream that was sweetened with xylitol, and I bought cake mix that was sweetened with erythritol. They were the only ones I used. I was going to, if I had a burst of energy, I would have made my own ice cream with monk fruit extract, but that didn't happen. For lots of reasons. Last week was pretty hard on several fronts, so I just bought store-bought ice cream. So today I'm going to talk about artificial sweeteners. It's a common question that we get a lot here. We're not dogmatic about it. We're not saying that artificial sweeteners are always bad and you should never use them. Obviously, I just fed them to children on the weekend, but you do need to be cautious and exercise your wisdom here. Artificial sweeteners have been a controversial topic for a long time. Back in the 70s, old-fashioned ones, the aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, and the advantame were all varyingly implicated in cancer. Interesting science that went along at that time. There was a study that linked saccharin and cyclamate. You can't get cyclamate anymore, I don't think. Caused bladder cancer in rats, which caused a really big stir and a fright at the time. However, this particular rat model they used, similar doses of vitamin C also caused bladder cancer in these rats. So it wasn't a particularly robust scientific model. But however, the stain really stuck. Artificial sweeteners are dangerous. Further studies had sort of suggested that these more old-fashioned artificial sweeteners available in the 70s were not cancerous. My daughter's awake. Hang on, baby, I'll be there soon. You know what, guys? I might have to pause and come back. She's a bit unwell as well. Later, they were also implemented with lymphoma, leukemia, Hodgkin's lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but all with really inconsistent results. So nowadays, what can I say here at 2021, looking back at all this evidence? I think that the best that I could say is that probably not. Artificial sweeteners probably don't cause cancer, but we absolutely cannot rule it out completely. Our modern food environment is pretty toxic, and artificial sweeteners may be a toxic contributor to that modern food environment. But what I'm actually far more interested in is metabolic health. Not to say that I'm not worried about cancer risk, but metabolic health is really where I practice and where I'm most interested. In July in 2017, the Canadian Medical Association released a big meta-analysis looking at lots of different studies, and it showed that overall there was no effect, but larger cohorts, it was shorter studies, there was no effect on metabolic disease. Mate, I'm coming, just got to give me a few minutes. Okay, it's all happening here in the morning. But larger studies in this 27 cohort study did show that use of artificial sweeteners was associated with increased risk of metabolic disease, of diabetes, of hypertension and obesity. And this was a pretty big study. 400,000 people were followed up over 10 years. And also in 2014, there was an interesting study showing that artificial sweeteners changed the gut microbiome in mice it was. But what do I think? Okay, so I don't think that they're safe. I think that they can stimulate insulin. I think that they really confuse our bodies and our metabolisms, and that they keep sugar addiction alive. If you are someone who suffers from sweet cravings, then artificial sweeteners are going to keep those cravings alive. And this has been scientifically validated. A 2012 study published in the journal Behavioural Physiology looked at MRI studies of people who regularly drank artificially sweetened beverages, and that they had heightened reward responses, that dopamine addiction response in their brain to both saccharin and sugar and sucrose, much more than people who did not drink artificially sweetened beverages. So if you've got problems with sugar addiction and sweet cravings, artificial sweeteners are not your friend. I think that overall it is best to avoid them and or limit their use. So you don't have to avoid them completely, but really do use them cautiously and sparingly. I wouldn't let my child have, artificially sweetened foods every day, for example. And if I did, it would be in very small amounts. The thing is that these are extremely new to our human diet, and we don't really know what they do. They confuse our brains, they confuse our metabolism, they keep sugar addiction and sweet cravings alive, and they may also contribute to weight gain, to metabolic disease, and even to type 2 diabetes. And they do not fit in with the adage of real food. They are not real food. So overall, not good. If you're going to use them sparingly. So you want to have some birthday cake, that's cool, but don't eat artificially sweetened birthday cake every day, would be our general advice. Use your wisdom and tailor your diet to you. We do consider there are some least worst ones. Stevia drops, if you can get them, are least worst. They taste weird. Erythritol is pretty good. Might be a problem if you've got some kidney disease, although that is not really well proven, but it does seem to be excreted through the kidneys, so that could be a potential problem. Monk fruit extract is a good one, less worse. Just beware. It's full of yucky fillers like inulin and maltodextrose and things that you don't want to eat. And xylitol's all right. Just keep it away from your dogs. All right, so check out our podcast, which is launched today. The wonderful Tracy McBeath is there talking about health coaching and the fabulous low carb long weekend event that she has got hosting later in May, where myself, Dr. Mary Barson, and Dr. Lucy Burns are presenting at that wonderful virtual conference. Lots of incredible speakers. It's going to be amazing. Have a great day, guys.